listening to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting. If you haven't yet, please subscribe to us on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts from. Also, please give us a rating, give us some feedback, and let us know how we can make each episode of Range Minded better for you. This is episode number 24, where a family member of mine from Chicago comes to visit the shop, and she's never shot an AR-15 before. What does she think when she finally gets behind the trigger? Well, you'll find out. As always, thanks for listening to Range Minded, and we hope you enjoy episode number 24 of Range Minded. The visitor from Chicago shoots an AR-15 for the very first time. Hello, and welcome to Range Minded from Independence Indoor Shooting, episode number 24 with Steve Zimmerman, Ricky Kasner, myself, Mark Long, and we have a special guest.
Yes, we do.
Hello.
Meg Goodman.
Hello.
Meg is my aunt, actually. She's here visiting from Chicago, and we thought it would be an interesting idea to see what it's like for somebody who's never shot an AR-15 before, or anything more than a handgun, for that matter, I think.
Are you nervous?
A little, yeah, I am. It's the unexpected.
That'll be fun.
And
you'll like it.
So we're gonna interview you a little bit to see what your thoughts are, because we haven't had any prior conversations about this yet. I've purposely avoided the topic of firearms
because it makes good radio.
That's right, because I wanted to get your full reaction. Have no coaching or anything like that here. And you're with, I've mentioned this I think a couple times though, that you're with an NRA certified range safety officer, no big deal, and two NRA certified instructors. And I was going to say master instructor, or no, I can't remember.
Not yet.
Almost.
What do you call master? No, Ricky and I are both
coach. You mean? Is that what you're trying to? Counselor.
Eventually, I'll be a counselor through the NRA.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Ricky and I are both also certified through USCCA's as pistol instructors,
which is the United States Concealed Carry Association.
Very good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and that's the organization whose curriculum we use through our concealed carry classes and all that kind of stuff. So, because I was mentioning to her how big a deal education is here at Independence, and maybe Ricky, you can start by talking about that, just some general information about our education here.
Well, yeah, I mean, our education is dealing specifically with people that have never had experience with any of this stuff. So we're excited to see where the education and hear it from a first-hand perspective. And I'm sure you're out of Chicago, you get the whole assault weapon or assault rifle when you think of AR-15, that it was only for military, only for killing people. That's what it was designed for. And so it's going to be very interesting to see what will happen when we're going through this education of somebody who's never been through the training before and shot these rifles. So
yeah. Oh, I also told Meg that you guys would be nice.
Yeah, he promised.
So Ricky, be nice today.
Sorry.
No.
We'll try to keep that promise for you.
Yeah. Growing up and being in Illinois, it's especially in the suburbs of Chicago and the city of Chicago, it's a more urban area. Firearms are not really all that common, compared to a more rural setting or even out here in Idaho and the western states. So
they have a little bit more of a negative connotation in Chicago.
I would say so, yeah. And let's just get right into it. What do you see, or what do you kind of the general opinion of folks that you interact with about firearms?
It's mixed. Living in the suburbs, I commute to Chicago every day, and you hear on a regular basis of how many people have been shot, even on the expressway that I drive, and you wonder sometimes what's going to happen. But I think there's more of a disdain for guns because of how they're reported. In Chicago, you don't hear of responsible gun owners. You hear about the gangs taking people out, and that's the general opinion. But it doesn't stop people. People just go about their daily lives, and a lot of the shootings that happen are people in the wrong place or people mishandling guns when they're messing with them.
Yeah, and it's a lot of gang-related stuff, and it's in concentrated parts of the city. It's not like you're going to walk in the main downtown area or the financial district or whatever, and you're going to get shot. I mean, I've walked around there at 11 o'clock, midnight, and it's like any other city, you know.
Has it ever been to where, like, with those statistics, because Chicago, if you do look at, I mean, all the statistics that come out, and I don't know how true they are, but it's a pretty violent crime ridden city as far as in comparison to other ones. Mm-hmm. So has it ever crossed your mind, hey, I would want to carry a firearm for self-defense if I could?
I've thought about it. My concern, knowing I have a very healthy respect for guns, I've thought of doing concealed carry, but I'm afraid of shooting myself. Mm-hmm. And I thought, boy, if I have a loaded gun in my purse, I'll shoot my foot. So, but no, it just never occurred to me to carry anything.
Sure.
And the shootings never stopped me from going anywhere I want to go in the city, because they're going to happen, but they're not going to stop me from doing what I need to do. But I never think of carrying protection like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, she's not overcome with fear or anything like that, or doesn't let fear stop her. So, because one time she go, hey, I'm turning, 55, and you said, I want to jump out of an airplane. Will you do that with me?
And we did.
And so
twice.
Yeah, twice. Cool. So, Meg doesn't let fear stop her or anything like that. But, there is a healthy respect for firearms. Because we've gone shooting a couple times, maybe 3 or 4 times. That was back in Illinois. But, yeah, we've only shot handguns, I think, together.
A couple of the rifles that you have.
Okay.
And my feeling about guns, I think everybody should shoot a gun. I think TV and the movies sometimes sanitize what they really do, and I think people need to understand responsibly the power in a firearm. But I also think doing it will erase fear. It will give healthy respect. But I think a lot of people are needlessly afraid of firearms because they've never experienced them. So that's why I think the education you guys do is incredibly important, because it will teach people what really shooting is all about.
Sure. And I think you'll find a lot of that concern or fear that you have can be overcome from training, worried about shooting yourself, because that's a legitimate concern, right? That's everybody understands that a bullet will come out of that barrel and will cause damage or worse, right? Mm-hmm. And so I think you'll find that the training that you take, or if you seek out that kind of a good instructor, because there's a lot of instructors in the world, but find a good one, you'll find that the tool, if you know how to understand and use a tool, you can use it safely without any problems. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's what, at least in my experience.
Yeah, and it was interesting because Meg kind of asked, say, what do you guys do this podcast for? And I said, well, I mean, we really do want to inspire people to learn more and to educate and inform themselves.
You had an answer for it?
Well, I said besides being famous. Yeah. We're well on our road to that.
That's the
right.
vision.
That's number one.
The mission is to be famous.
When we first talked about this, they were like, well, we want to be famous and we want a podcast. Can you make that happen? I'm like, sure. Let's do it.
He says,
make us stars.
Give me a minute. That's what he said. Yeah.
I definitely want a star on Hollywood.
Oh, no big deal. Street. Give me another year.
Okay.
Well, we can contact that guy that just made all those Donald Trump star stickers and stuck them on all the... Did you see that?
Geez.
Oh,
I haven't seen
So
that.
he could just put your name and just overlay it or somebody else's star.
Yeah, and then take a picture and you're good. But I was explaining how education and correct information really is, I think, what's going to help people overcome their fear of firearms.
Yeah, and correct information. I like how you said that, correct information, because there's a lot of tactical Timmies or whatever you want to call it out there that'll just, I can teach a class, and they will. And I think of one guy, I'm not going to say his name, but he's been in the news more than once. It was super irresponsible, and he's got a following. Because of how awful he is, and people have posted his videos on YouTube. He's famous,
for the wrong reasons.
He's a horrible, horrible instructor. I'm not going to say his name, but you guys, I don't know. Maybe I've showed you the videos of some of the stuff he does.
I think so.
And I think he's out of Chicago, honestly.
Could be. But that's the thing about anybody can post anything on YouTube and say, oh, I've got this experience or whatever, but you really don't know.
So let me ask you, as somebody who'd want responsible education, how do I know a good instructor from a bad instructor? How do you choose the right person?
Disposition.
Okay.
You meet them. I would want to say a whole bunch of certifications, but some may not have a lot of certifications.
Well, and certs aren't hard to get either. I mean, obviously, look at Ricky and I, right? Certs aren't really difficult to get. So and we've talked about this before, one thing that really disappoints me about the NRA is how easy it is to get through some of their classes. And there's a lot of NRA certified instructors that really aren't that great of instructors. But like you said, disposition's always good. Another thing is pedigree. If you can find out maybe some of the classes that they went to, or talk to some of their students that they've had, and really get a feel for it. Sometimes going to even just the gun range, if you have a local gun range, you can talk to some of the staff there and figure out, because they'll have a pretty good idea of who's dialed in and who's not.
It really comes down to having a person should have the right attitude, a kind and caring attitude, that they're really going out there for the right reason and not just to be famous, but they want to actually educate. They want to teach. Yeah. And then you have, so if you had the seeds of an instructor, you have that person that has that drive and they want to help others. And then you get the training. So you have a little bit of history there, but then as years go by with that instructor, they just get better. And so you're looking at that, like that attitude, the history of what brought them into the firearm world, and then the years. And
I don't think you'll ever find the Mr. Miyagi, right? The one guy that can teach you everything. You'll get to a point where you'll hit a progression wall, and you're like, well, I got to find somebody else, or even different disciplines. Like, you might find an awesome handgun instructor, and a lot of those principles will still flow through different platforms, but he may not know how to run a carbine or a shotgun, and so you might have to find somebody else to teach you how to run a rifle.
And there's a lot of instructors out there that will say they know everything, and they're on every platform.
And usually those are the ones that say, yeah, I can teach everything. Usually that's like, okay, I might find somebody else.
Those are the ones you stay away from.
Yeah. Well, even Bill, one of our instructors here, who has, a huge resume. I mean, he's got all kinds of experience, trained at amazing places, was a police officer for a number of years. His area of specialty is handguns, and we interviewed him here on the podcast a couple episodes ago. And I think Ricky, you asked him about, well, do you like teaching handguns, or are you more proficient with rifles or shotguns? Or he goes, well, I can run a shotgun, I can run a rifle or whatever, but handguns are really where my, area of expertise is, because the manipulation and operation of arms on a handgun is a lot different than a rifle, or a shotgun or a carbine or whatever. Some of the principles do carry over, but the what you think about and how you operate with, like a long range setup or whatever. If you're trying to shoot at a rifle at 100 yards or 1,000 yards, way different than trying to shoot a handgun defensively or competitively.
At 10 yards.
Yeah, exactly. So
do your homework. Just because someone's certified doesn't mean they're the right instructor or the right instructor for your personality.
That's true.
Ask questions and know that one person can't be everything.
I'll tell you. May not. There are some guys out there that can do it. And usually those classes are the most expensive, because there's guys that can spend time and teach everything. Like, we've name dropped before, but usually, like, I can't afford going to some of those classes.
They're intense. They're like $1,400 3-day weekend classes.
And you go
through
thousands of rounds of ammunition, and like Ken Hackathorn, he's a guy out of Idaho, who's he's an older gentleman, been around a long time, goes all over the world and teaches, and he can teach anything. But I can't afford his classes. Or Larry Vickers, those kind of guys. It's just outside of my ballpark.
And I'll tell you, our ballparks. I'll tell you, when I get resumes for instructors, and I look at them, and I say this, understanding this is where people need to start, but I see NRA, certified NRA pistol instructor, and they put it on there loud and proud that they're ready. And Steve and I know, I mean, Mark, you've been through the NRA training courses, but it's like, that's kind of a fly-by-night sort of certification. And so NRA carries a big name, so people still get it. Even big name instructors will still get the NRA certification, but usually they have a lot more certs or training before the NRA certification. They get that last, but the person that has the NRA certification first and that's all they have.
Yeah, it doesn't really necessarily mean all that great.
Yeah.
But he still may, and that's why you got to
They're
talk
just
to
building.
other class. You
Yeah.
still may be able to, they may be able to have phenomenal skills and be able to teach. So don't let that stop you either. It's
Well,
kinda,
and that's where it's really important just to meet him, meet me or meet her, whoever. I mean, we're starting a women's group here, and I'm really excited to bring on the instructor that we are.
yeah, we were lucky to pick her up. She's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys sense that women approach guns differently than men? And do women prefer to train with women or guys? Or how do you see the difference?
Yes and no.
Yeah. I get some women, they'll be like, women are snooty. I don't need to be around a bunch of other women. But more often I get, oh, yes, this is what I've been wanting. The women have been wanting to get into the shooting sports, but they feel intimidated.
Yeah, it's been stereotypically such a guy thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a machismo about it.
Yeah, but and back to the NRA. The NRA knew that at some point ladies were going to come in, so they started years ago doing programs for ladies and kids. Excuse me. So they kind of saw that before the rest of the world really did. So that was kind of a plus. But yeah, women are really the next generation of the firearm industry because they're the ones teaching kids, right? Usually men are out making money and doing other things, going hunting or whatever. I guess depends on where you're at. But I find that women are way more fun to teach because they listen. Guys don't listen because they already know everything, right? We're stubborn. And they do look at it differently where the men's like, yeah, I'm going to shoot bad guys if they come in the house, where the lady's like, no, I'm going to defend my family. I'm going to defend my kids.
Yeah, and they're terrified. They're like, yeah, I want to get past that point of intimidation to carry a firearm because I know maybe I had this experience or this thing could have happened or I've always been kind of interested in the shooting sports. But it's hard to make that leap until these women know, hey, there's other women doing the same thing, and I can be just around them and I can ask my stupid questions. There were air quotes there so everyone knows. But if I can ask my stupid questions and they're not stupid to everybody else, nobody's scoffing at them, because they need to be answered.
Yeah, a lot of those ladies have the exact same questions, but they're just not.
And they think that they think they're the only ones with it.
Sure.
And then when they ask that question, the other ladies are like, "Oh yes, what do you do about that?" And then the instructor can instruct, and then now it's edifying the whole group. And so we have 40 women now registered for this women's group, and this is the first week we've run it.
Wow.
So, extremely positive.
Yeah, and that's one of the cool things about this shop is that there really is no assumptions or machismo kind of thing or whatever. You have folks who know a lot here. There's a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge, and it's very friendly, So it's a very approachable place. But going back to about an instructor too, because I talked about getting a concealed carry license in Illinois, just kind of curiosity and going through the process and everything. You want to look for somebody who doesn't just spout off opinions, and this is the way this and this is the way that or whatever, because I had an instructor and, he was good at sharing the information that we needed, but it was full of opinion and, and really in this situation, you need to do this or whatever. And it's like, you're not really educating. You're just hearing somebody's opinion. And when you go through, 2 days of, 4 to 6 hour classes and all that, it's like, okay, that's, and then you pay the exorbitant amount of money. It's like $300 or $400, I think, after classes and the fee and all that to get your license. It's like, well, did I really feel trained and empowered to do this?
Competent enough to actually carry and know the laws. That's the big deal.
The laws.
That's a big deal. Yeah, especially in Chicago, carrying a concealed firearm in Chicago would be vastly different than Boise, Idaho. And so that's where a lot of people, they come out of CCW classes and they don't know the laws. They don't know the laws any better than when they first started or when they took that class or before they took the class. And in fact, they probably are even more intimidated because all they know is, holy cow, there are a lot of laws out there and I can go to jail for a lot of things, you know. It's
Maybe
like,
I just won't carry now.
yeah, we might have just scared them away from
Interesting,
carrying.
Well, then there's also people, because Idaho is actually a constitutional carry state, so you can carry a firearm here. I believe as long as you're a resident, right?
Non-residents can open carry.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, if you're going to conceal carry constitutional-wise, you have to be a resident.
Yeah. So, but anybody who's an Idaho resident can conceal carry without a license. And we've talked about that, and it's great for gun rights and everything, but not getting that training is a serious misstep. You know, I think we're all in agreement about that.
Yes.
Back to the instructors, though, and I want to caveat off of what Mark said, but you don't want to listen to a bunch of opinion, and you also don't want to listen to a bunch of war stories. You don't care about their war stories unless it has a pertinent application to what they're teaching. Like when our instructors teach here, they may tell about a certain situation they had when they were, you know, on duty or whatever, because it actually applies to the specific topic of what they're talking about, versus them trying to give their pedigree through their war stories of like why you should listen to me because I've killed a bunch of people, you know, or I've been in a lot of shootings. Those might be the people you stay away from if they've been in a lot of shootings, because, you know, unless
They might be looking for trouble.
Yeah, they're the
Good
hotheads. So that's the big deal to us, is like, you can have an awesome instructor that teaches you good foundations, fundamentals, that has never been in a shooting, not once. You don't need that for a good instructor. So
it's important to not only learn how to handle the firearm, but to make the right decision in the situation that you get into, which might be very different than the instructor's been in.
Yeah. It may not even be pulling the gun out of the holster. It may just be finding a way out and getting out of danger right away.
Yeah, and I think that's a misconception about a lot of CCW classes or any kind of training in general, is that it's just about how to use the gun and how to shoot somebody, for lack of a better term. And really, when, you know, we go over legal, because I went through the concealed carry class here, you know, what better way to learn how it works than go through it yourself? You know, you really learn it. You know, they talk about, okay, let's say somebody comes through that door with a gun, but I'm standing by this door, you know, but I pull out my gun and shoot him. Am I within my rights to do that? No, because like a jury is going to find, or as a reasonable person, you could have just walked out the door. And so they really teach you about how important it is to consider that as a last resort and how many other options you have. And it's more really about, like, at least initially, about situational awareness.
Yeah.
And
Are the classes the same state to state? Or
No,
do they
no.
vary?
they
Well,
vary.
they vary from shop to shop too, even, I would say. I mean, each state has their own requirements.
Yeah, there's minimum requirements.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of instructors teach you, is just the minimum. Well, that's all they need to get their permit.
And we go above a minimum.
Yeah.
We even in Idaho, actually, there's different requirements, because we have, I guess, 3 different permits, you would say. And you have constitutional carry, which you don't need to take any training. You just are an Idaho resident and you can constitutional carry. Then we have a basic CCW permit where you can show any pass, even a hunter's ed, when you took it
training
at 12 years old,
which was the original permit that Idaho had.
Yeah, that would get you a basic CCW permit, and then you have the enhanced, which allows you to just carry in more states. That's a required 8-hour course. You have to shoot 98 rounds by law. I don't know why they came up with 98 rounds, but that's just kind of the thing. But there is no stipulation on how you have to shoot that. There's no qualifying match or qualifying.
There's no score. There's no.
Yeah.
You could literally
Just
go to the desert
qualification.
and shoot 98 rounds with an instructor into the ground, and you'd be covered.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
We
with
don't do
that
that.
said, we shoot 120 rounds in that class, and the instructor will qualify. So he set up his own qualification for the end of class, the shooting portion. So that's where I'm saying, like, and then I taught back in the day, I taught in Colorado, and Colorado has no stipulation as far as how much time you even need to give the student. I could have met with the student, collected money, and 10 minutes later handed him a certificate, and he would have been good. And so, state to state. And I obviously didn't do that. I mean, mine was an 8-hour course, and I shot with them. I required that. So, but anyway, But yeah, state to state, it's vastly different.
So if I got my concealed carry in Chicago, in Illinois, and then moved out here, would you recommend when people move from state to state to take that state's course then
I would.
where they are?
Yeah, and a lot of times you have to, because when I moved from Colorado, I had to forfeit my CCW permit. It's not always the same, but usually you do have to forfeit that license and get your state's license. It won't be valid anymore.
And so that actually gets into this whole thing of reciprocity, where some states, so like with an Idaho basic concealed carry permit, you can carry in a couple different states. With an enhanced concealed carry permit, you can carry in even more states. But Idaho and Illinois aren't reciprocal. So Idaho's concealed carry license isn't good in Illinois, and actually Illinois doesn't honor any other state's concealed carry license. So like if I came back to visit, I can't. My concealed carry license is even my enhanced concealed carry license is no good in Illinois. And when I moved here, like you mentioned about forfeiting your previous state's CCW permit, I got a letter from the Illinois State Police about a couple months after being here and said, "We noticed you're not a resident anymore. Send us your firearm owner's ID card, your FOID card, and send us your CCW, or you'll have a misdemeanor when you come back."
Yeah.
Thank you very much. So I had to mail it in, send them back, and that was that.
Yeah.
So because that's another thing that we don't have here, and really I don't think any other state does, is a FOID card. You guys are familiar with that?
California may have something like that.
Do they?
So California's permit, you have to put down what guns you're going to carry on the permit.
Really?
And if your gun that you're carrying is not on your card, you could get in trouble.
That's crazy.
Which is none of their business what I carry.
Yeah. Well, especially because if you're starting out with CCW and you don't know what you like, and maybe you buy and sell a couple different ones or whatever, or try different, or like with summer and winter carry, you're going to carry a bigger gun in the winter because you have more clothes to hide it under and more layers. I don't know.
Yeah,
So
that does make it hard.
It's state regulated. Do you ever see any overarching federal regulation of this?
Well, and
no.
This gets into a big discussion. Generally speaking, people that are into protecting the Second Amendment right, or I should say, people in general, in the you have your conservative and your liberal view. Liberal wants more federal command or control over stuff, and then conservative, you want the federal government to get out of state affairs, right?
Yeah.
But there is a push for a national constitutional carry
A permit,
act.
yeah.
Yeah, to where if you were a resident, say I had my CCW in Idaho, and I get it the same way with the enhanced concealed carry. But now if that act were to pass nationally, I could carry anywhere. Illinois, Hawaii, California, who cares?
Kind of like how a driver's license works in any state. You can drive here in Idaho, or you can drive anywhere else.
Yeah, and that's the argument that they've been trying to use. Is say, my driver's license works, why doesn't my concealed carry work?
And this is where my opinion is.
Oh, dear. I didn't get you upset this morning. So
no, you didn't.
This might get them a little riled up.
No, and I know other people out there would be like, no. But I am all for the federal government saying, yeah, we need a constitutional carry, because the way I view it is the Second Amendment is a federal amendment. I mean, it came from the federal government in the Constitution. So them upholding it's stronger is not the federal government mandating to the states anything that shouldn't already happen. But I know there will be other people out there saying, no, it's the states' rights to do what they will, which is what we have right now, which is extremely frustrating and gets a lot of good people thrown in jail because unwittingly they travel into a state. So let me give you an example. Going to Colorado, for example, a place that I used to live, I can carry here in Idaho, I can carry a 17-round magazine. So a Glock 17 that holds 17 rounds in its magazine. I travel to Colorado and I can be a felon or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it's against the law to have more than 15 rounds in a magazine. unless it's grandfathered in and that magazine was manufactured before a certain date. But that gets ridiculous, and that's up to the discretion of the officer at that point. It's really, there's a lot of loosey-goosey laws out there that, I mean, you travel to a different state, or even within the same state, another state I was from in Nevada, I could carry all in Nevada, but if I go into Las Vegas, then I can't carry anymore. And if I don't know those things, if I don't really research before I travel, I can get myself into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, ignorance doesn't save you at that point.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people that are facing felonies from just traveling from Pennsylvania to New Jersey. And they go across a bridge or whatever is over there. I don't know if it's a road or a bridge, but they just go across the border. Instant felons.
Same thing here with even Oregon, because we're 40 miles away from the Oregon border, 45 miles away, and Oregon doesn't share reciprocity with Idaho. You have to get an Oregon. Now, you can get a non-resident Oregon concealed carry license, but
you have to pay separate and apply separate.
Yeah, and you travel just 40 miles difference, and you could get, and you have to know that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
From an education standpoint, then, somebody like me who doesn't know what you guys know, how do I learn this stuff? Where do I go to find out how to stay out of trouble?
It's hard. Okay, so there's a book actually that's revisited every year. It's rewritten every year. It's called The Traveler's Guide to Concealed Carry, I think. And there's a gentleman, I can't remember his name, but he puts that out every year. He looks at all the laws.
That was a good solid plug. Way to go, Ricky.
Yeah,
it's more buzz marketing.
Right.
Thanks to Ricky.
Thank you to our sponsors.
If we don't know who you are.
If you'd like to actually sponsor us, yeah.
Hint, hint.
But yeah, that's a good way. But unfortunately, there is no easy way for me to say, that's how you stay out of trouble, because it's hard.
There are some good apps out there now you can put on your phone that are super pro gun friendly, I guess, carry friendly. Mm-hmm. You can get on there and it'll go through reciprocity. Like, it'll ask you what state you're from, so you pull out. Ricky doesn't have a flip phone, but he has a. But yeah, you can.
It's a flip wallet.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can pull it up and say, oh, this is the state I live in. Does my concealed permit carry? And it'll change the color of all the.
Yeah, I think I've actually got it. It's called. There's one called CCW. We'll do some plugging here. I think they're free apps, so whatever.
I don't pay for apps, so I know they're free.
It's a free app. One's called CCW, and then you just go past the big disclaimer. We'll link to it.
I'll buy $1,000 handgun, but I won't pay for a
$4 app.
You have priorities.
Yeah.
It's okay.
So, but you plug in where your CCW permit is from, and in my case, it's Idaho, and then it shows you a map, and it's all green and red of like where you can and where you can't. You'll notice that Illinois is red,
and you could probably.
I think Wisconsin's green.
Now that's the basic, though.
I bet you
that's not the enhanced.
No, it's not. And I bet
no, that is basic. I haven't updated it.
And you could probably select a state, right? And it'll go through some of the laws.
Yeah, so like I clicked Colorado, and then it goes through. So reciprocity, states recognizing it, transport laws, prohibited areas.
Now that won't give you city specific though. That's
and it's
problem.
It's not gonna save you end all be all or whatever. But
no,
it's helpful.
Yeah, and then if you have other questions, you could probably contact sheriff's office or something in that state and say, hey.
Yeah, they give you. I think they give you contact information. So, and then there's another app called Post-it actually, where, like, so for example, in Illinois, the list of where you can carry is pretty much shorter than the list where you can't carry. And so, like, they show, like, obviously you can't carry in the post office or government buildings, federal buildings. But even in Illinois, you can't carry on public transit. So if you take the bus, you take the Metro, you take the L. You can't carry on that, so you have to.
That's annoying.
And then there's also.
That's where you would want to carry.
Yeah. But also in certain stores, in Illinois, there was a stipulation that as a business owner, it was within your rights, if you posted this certain sign, then firearms, were prohibited from being carried there. But you don't, let's say you're walking around running errands or whatever, and you've got your, gun on your hip the whole day, and you don't know, and you don't know that a store, you can't carry in a store until you get there. Well, it's kind of a big inconvenience, and then you got to walk all the way back to your car, and somebody might know what you're doing. I don't know. But this one called Posted I think it's like community, like populated, where you can search your city or search where you're at, and it'll tell you where places are friendly or not towards it. So There's information, apps, and all that you can use.
I'm going to put another plug out there. This is brought to us by U.S. Law Shield. But yeah, actually, U.S. Law Shield's really nice. This is I carry a card. It's an insurance. Okay, it's only $100 a year?
$132 basically a year, or $10, $11 a month.
They have no caps. So they'll insure you as far as civil and criminal court cases. So if you
ceiling.
Yeah, if you go to Las Vegas and you're carrying and a cop pulls you over and wants to charge you with a felony, or a misdemeanor or whatever it would be, they'll cover you. All appeals, they would go all the way up to the Supreme Court for $130 a year. So it's a pretty big deal to do that. On the back of the card, you have two phone numbers. You have one in red and then one in regular black and white. The one in black and white, you can call that number and say, hey, I'm about to travel to X, Y, and Z place. Mm-hmm. Can you give me all the stipulations that I need to go through, that I need to keep in mind? This red number, if I were to call that, that's like, holy cow, something just happened. And that links you directly to an attorney. And that's the attorney's phone number. It goes right to it. And so that's a pretty cool thing. So I'm a big advocate for carrying this in your wallet and knowing where to go to get the information you need.
Mm-hmm. Good resources.
Yeah.
So that's about everything about CCW. It's kind of funny. I didn't know that you would be interviewing us, but here we are. It works out really well.
I have questions.
That's good.
But let's pivot over real quick to
the AR-15.
The AR-15, because like I said, that's what we're going to do is we're going to have you shoot it, and we'll see what your opinions and stuff are afterward. I haven't shown her an AR-15. All she knows is the knowledge you walked in with. So when you hear the word AR-15, what does come to mind? What are your opinions and what's in your head regarding it?
There's an amount of fear because you hear more often how they're misused and kill people. So there's two parts for me. It's what I hear out in the media,
sure,
which is always, it's never the good stuff. Responsible citizen shoots an AR-15 today and didn't kill anybody. You never hear that. Mm-hmm. My second apprehension is, can I handle it? Am I going to accidentally shoot somebody because I'm over my skis on this? Mm-hmm. Is it something that will overpower me because I'm not handling something
sure.
I can deal with? What does give me comfort is knowing that I'm with you guys who you're trained. You won't let me get in trouble. You won't put me in a situation mm-hmm. that I can't handle. But honestly, there's some apprehension, and it's the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which I would honestly say is a good thing, mm-hmm. because that's going to cause you to be responsible around the firearm, not do something quick. Not do something irresponsible because you're acting like you already know it. So I do like when people come with a bit of that apprehension, but with an open mind as well to say, you know what, I'm willing to try.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because really, so let's just dive into what the AR-15 actually is. And you guys can correct me as we go.
Go get one?
Sure.
Really quick.
Sure.
You'll go get one.
Right there to my seat.
Yeah. Don't even have to get out of your seat.
That's right.
Sorry. Thanks, Rick. There's some Nat sound.
It makes it real, though, because you know what he's doing.
Yeah. So, okay. So the AR-15 is a platform. That's all it is. And the AR stands for Armalite Rifle 15.
What's a platform?
So a platform is not necessarily a brand or a rifle. It's like the difference between a car, a truck, and SUV. Does that make sense?
It does.
So an AR-15 is just a platform. Like you've heard different, like an AK-47. That's another platform. A bunch of people make an AK-47, but it's a platform.
You should pick that one.
Yeah, thanks. Steve's got a custom dust cover on there, and he's got a suppressor.
It's not real.
Oh, okay. But still.
Oh, that's the dummy.
So
it looks good.
It does look great. Because Steve has a couple of ARs.
What does AR-15 mean? What does that
So that means it's Armalite rifle number 15.
Okay.
And Armalite was the company that actually developed it.
Yeah, the original company. Armalite used to build airplane parts. And Eugene Stoner, was one of their engineers, and he was looking at some of the stuff that was getting sent out in Korea. Well, I guess it would have been,
Korea and early Vietnam. Yeah,
and it would have been Vietnam because that's when they really started doing it right. Just heavy, cumbersome guns. He's like, well, why don't we use this technology that we're using in aircraft, making things lighter and still reliable, and put that towards our troops so they can carry more ammunition or more things when they're on the ground. And so he put a lot of the exact same components into this rifle. And honestly, the design is so simple, but yet it was genius, in my opinion, how the gun functions.
So it definitely doesn't stand for assault rifle.
Yeah.
It's an Armalite rifle.
There's some lady, one of the... I don't know if you remember, the AR stands for, it can kill, it's an assault rifle that kills 15 people a second or something like that.
That's creative.
Yeah, well, a lot of people in politics will say things like that, and they have no idea what they're talking about.
But it sounds good.
It's a good sound clip.
Well, and you get it once, and then people just keep spinning off of it, and then pretty soon, I mean, if it's not corrected, it becomes reality.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
So this is an AR-15. It's a semi-automatic rifle, because I think you asked me a question, was it yesterday, about semi and full auto? What was your question on that?
What does it mean? What's the difference between semi and automatic?
So semi-automatic is if I pull the trigger, one bullet's going to come out. That's it. And then I have to release the trigger, pull it again, one bullet. If I and it's fully auto, and this is another misconception, full autos are not illegal. We can buy full autos. They're just cost prohibitive. They cost a lot of money. There's a lot of regulations you have to go through. It's kind of ridiculous. But so I don't own any full autos. But like I said, semi-auto, one trigger, one bullet. Let it reset. One trigger, one bullet. All modern handguns are semi-automatic. A lot of the hunting rifles are semi-automatic now. So there's really no fear. There's nothing there. It's
if you've shot Mark's guns, his semi-auto, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and I think a bolt action. I think it was a Mosin.
Okay, so think of his pistol that you shot. Exact same functionality.
Yeah,
it's the same thing, only in rifle version.
To put it another way, if you're holding any semi-automatic firearm and you press the trigger and hold it back, nothing's going to happen. It's going to be one shot, and that's it.
So the automatic part is the bullet then comes into the chamber after you've shot one. It automatically reloads.
So that's semi-automatic, though.
Yeah. So yeah, and the semi uses the energy for the last spent cartridge to load another one, but it will not fire until you press the trigger.
Okay.
Again. Full auto is I could depress that trigger, and it uses all that energy to just keep cycling the gun, pop, 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 until there's no more ammunition.
Okay.
Which there you get into this whole like people it's a full auto or with bump stocks. Full auto, if you don't know how to use one, they're extremely inaccurate. It's hard to be on with an auto. People are going to be able to be a lot more accurate with a semi-auto.
Yeah.
So you get all this like, bump stocks they were able to kill so many more people because of all this stuff, and it's just a total ridiculous.
Shoot.
Yeah.
And the bump stocks that were so they don't change the mechanics of the firearm. They don't turn it into an automatic. What it's doing is just overcoming the trigger reset. It doesn't change anything mechanically in the gun. It uses the recoil to pull your finger off the trigger and then slide back onto the trigger faster. That's all it is.
And in war, full autos are usually used for what they call suppressive fire.
Just to make noise and spray bullets.
To make noise, I mean, it might kill some people, but you're trying to keep that bad guy at bay, duck down, not progressing towards you. Does that make sense?
Does.
Or with a 50 cal with a big bullet, the M2, that's more for vehicles, things like that, taking that stuff out. So it's really a misconception of what full auto is for, what it's used for.
And so what Steve has in his hands is a semi-automatic. What you're going to be shooting is a semi-automatic. So even if you just shoot it once and hold that trigger down, like you kind of squeeze from adrenaline or whatever, nothing else is going to happen. So don't have to worry about spraying bullets everywhere. And the other thing, I think we had talked a little bit, or you asked me about, or one of your impressions is it's mainly just for killing people. And that's actually not true. A lot of people use this for competitions. They also use them for hunting, right? Absolutely.
And more hunters are using these to hunt because they're light and they can carry some extra cartridges with them if they're terrible shots, which seems to happen.
It's possible.
And honestly, the way an AR-15 functions, the idea behind how it cycles has been around for a long time. Browning used very similar things, at the turn of the century. So there's nothing new or different about how the gun cycles.
Yeah, it's not all of a sudden this futuristic killing machine. I mean, you had this same, like Steve was saying, you had the same design. Gas operated is what we're talking about, and that's going a little bit into the weeds. But back when guns were still considered tools that you have on the ranch, it's not even it didn't have to be a war implement.
Yeah, Roosevelt, when he hunted, he hunted through Yellowstone, all those places, right? He was a big time hunter.
Teddy Roosevelt, yeah.
Yeah, Theodore, yeah. His favorite hunting gun, I think, was a Browning that was a gas operated design. So the exact same functions. How the gun is designed to function is the exact same way as his favorite hunting rifle.
Now, I think where a lot of the confusion comes in is, it does look exactly like, what the military carries, but this is a semi-automatic. Yeah. It's not a full auto, but a lot of police officers carry these too in their cars for defense or if they need it. And the other thing about ARs is you can customize them to look however you want. So normally they're in black. And hence the name Black Rifle. But Steve is notorious for customizing his firearms.
Got that pistol out there.
And so he spray painted it, and that's why it looks the color that it does. Now, we're going to get into the weeds a little bit, I bet, on this one. Because I'm holding a rifle, and this is kind of showing how silly some gun laws are. So what I'm holding is an AR-15 rifle. What Steve is holding is an AR-15 pistol.
And what makes one and the other?
So an AR-15 rifle has to have a barrel of at least 16 inches. If it's any shorter than that, it's what's qualified as a short-barreled rifle,
which is federally regulated.
Which you'd have to apply for what's called an NFA tax stamp. And that's just, you need a stamp to have a barrel on a rifle shorter than 16 inches. Now, the big difference is you can have a barrel on an AR pistol that's shorter than 16 inches, but you have to have what's called a pistol brace.
And that's designed to wrap around your forearm. Now, what's funny is...
There's a big caveat to that.
It's so uncomfortable to shoot that way. It's retarded, right? Ridiculous. Can't say retarded.
I'll bleep you.
But the ATF said, you know what? Yeah, you can shoulder that once in a while. Use it as, it's not a stock, it's a brace, but you can shoulder it once in a while. So now I effectively, it's not much different than an SBR other than I don't have to have...
Short-barreled rifle.
Yeah, short-barreled rifle, but I don't have to have it registered through the federal government.
Mm-hmm. And you can see the differences. I mean, the brace is different. The colors are different. So Steve is somewhat consistent with his optics, which is the red dot here, which is you don't have a light on that one.
Not yet.
But he's got a light on this one that's quite bright. But you can customize it to however you want. People can make them look as quote unquote scary as you want or as close to military as you want, but it's not going to be the same thing.
Why are short-barreled rifles more heavily regulated?
That is a fantastic question, and people have been asking the federal government why.
Okay.
So back in the 30s, we had a lot of problem with gangsters, right? They were
Being from Chicago, I
you
get
understand that, right? They had the
Sure.
Chicago typewriter.
Yeah, that was
Dillinger and
Al Capone.
Al Capone, that's who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
That was his city, wasn't it?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Yep.
So the government then said, okay, we got to this just isn't working. These gangsters are getting full automatics. They're getting suppressors. There's a problem, and we're going to fix it. And so they put a $200 tax
Which back then was effectively about $3,000.
It was a lot of money. Yep, back in especially coming through the Depression, very few people had that much money to spend. And so they said, okay, $200, then you can have one of these items, whether it be a suppressor or a short-barreled rifle or a short-barreled shotgun even.
But it's also registered to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the government said, okay, we're gonna know who owns this, because you have to put the serial number down, you have to put your name down, and then we'll tell you if you can have it afterwards.
So history quiz. Do you remember why Al Capone? What got Al Capone?
Taxes.
Yeah.
Tax evasion.
Yeah.
$200 tax stamp.
Interesting. I didn't know
That's
that.
what it was.
So yeah, and
because they couldn't get him, they couldn't pin him for anything else, so they finally were able to pin him on the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why now, and that tax hasn't changed for what are we
almost 100 years, 90 years. It's still $200, which is, it can be cost prohibitive to some people.
It is. That's why I don't have a real suppressor.
But it also, so it regulates suppressors too. But it also takes a long time. I mean, the ATF is pretty understaffed, and so you file this paperwork, pay $200, and then you wait anywhere from 6 to 9 to 12 months to get that stamp back.
Yeah,
and only when you receive the stamp, then you can actually have the short-barreled rifle, short-barreled shotgun, silencer, anything. There's a couple different categories.
So it's extremely regulated, and if you now, there's something called constructive intent. We're going to start getting into the weeds a little bit more. Something called constructive intent. Say I had this gun pulled apart, but my lower receiver, this portion, had a stock. That's another thing that changes it from a short-barreled rifle or a pistol to a short-barreled rifle. So if I had that in there, and then for some reason the ATF decided to knock on my door and look at my gun safe, and all I had was this upper receiver and this lower receiver with a stock, I would go to jail.
Yeah, because this right here, and he's saying lower, this is split into two halves. I don't know if you can see this line, but you can take this half off and this half, and they're two separate things. So the lower is this piece right here is the gun. What's that?
They consider that the firearm.
That's the firearm. All this other stuff is just accessories. So if Steve has filled out on his 4473 that this is a pistol, but you have a stock on it, that's bad.
That's a felony.
Yep. So you have
4473 is.
Sorry, it's federal paperwork that you have to fill out.
That's the form. Anytime anybody buys a gun from a dealer, including gun shows, I'm going to put that right out there, they have to fill out a form that goes through a background check. Okay. That's a federal law, and that's just, in the industry we call it a 4473 because that's form 4473. So
that's where you put your name, your address, all kinds of information. They ask you if you're a drug user, if you have been convicted of a violent crime, anything that would disqualify you from owning a firearm. Yeah.
Okay.
So we can go over a little bit more in the range. We're going to record you with this. So, I have this AR on my leg right now. Does this kind of make you nervous, or are you okay?
I'm okay, because I know how I'm in the room with here.
Okay. Yeah, because, it's like right here. And it is.
I'm fine with
I guess to the uninitiated, especially with Steve's camo paint job, it might be a little intimidating in his classy dust cover.
And we won't talk about that. And you're going to find that the way the gun operates, they're not unpleasant to shoot. They can be loud, especially the shorter
They're
barrel.
actually really pleasant. They're one of the more pleasant.
Yeah, there's not a lot of recoil associated to them. By design, that's why one of the reasons Stoner is so cool is the way he designed to manage recoil in the system. They're just a lot of fun to shoot, and now you can get larger caliber rifles in the same kind of design and that's why hunters use them. They'll do a 308 or something in this idea, which is way less recoil to deal with, so they don't destroy their shoulders trying to kill big game.
And so let's say that the original AR-15 was chambered in 5.56 by 4.5, which is why I wore my 5.56 shirt today.
Nice.
But like Steve said, because it's a platform, it's just a way a gun operates. You can get one in all different kinds of calibers. You can even get one in a handgun caliber, like 9mm. Mm-hmm. You can make a 9mm AR. They make parts and
they're a lot of fun
accessories.
To shoot. So they're a lot of fun to shoot.
So before we're getting into it, because we're gonna switch over to the range here in a couple minutes. What's your biggest apprehension right now? Do you have any or?
Just my ability to do it. It's the first shot. is my apprehension. Anything after that will be okay. It's like that first step out of the plane.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right?
that's true. Well, you don't take a
You
step
get
out
one
of the
step, right?
Yeah, you don't take a
That's
step
it.
out of the plane. You're attached to somebody and they kind of push you out. So
Well, and it's
And you're like,
so,
I'm not ready. Okay, we're
Yep.
going.
So when we jumped, the first time there was a ton of apprehension. The second time, I knew what to expect, and it was okay. So my apprehension is the first shot.
well, let's go take that first shot.
Would
You
you?
ready?
Well, I have a question. How does this relate to you jumping out of that plane? Is it the same anxiety, or is it way less anxiety?
It's a lot less, but there's still some
Same principle.
Same principle. It's just the unknown, and it's understanding what mishandling these things can do. But I know I'm in a situation where that's not going to happen.
And the other thing that's, we talk about these becoming more and more popular is there's folks defending their homes with AR-15s now. In fact, the shooting in Texas, the church shooting, that bad guy was stopped by an AR-15 by a civilian. And then when the cops showed up, it's a cool story. If you ever want to hear it, think of the guy that ended up shooting the bad guy. That's a cool story. There's a cool interview on YouTube about it. But.
Yeah, and I've seen, a lot of it is anecdotal, but there's a lot of research, from John Lott and other
True.
people that go into this stuff about defensive gun uses. But I've even seen on YouTube a guy talk about who lives in he was an African-American man. He had an AR-15 and he was just hanging out one day or whatever, and somebody came up to his door and he saw like 5 or 6 people behind him and he grabbed his AR. And it was in a poorer neighborhood.
Yeah.
But he was able to at least get those. He didn't shoot anybody. He just had his AR out and all that. And, that's the more effective tool for the job. If you have like Ricky said, a Glock 17 with 17 rounds, but you have 6 people, that's pretty, it's not going to get you very far.
The other thing that's important to understand is on the other side of the spectrum, how much they're used in crime is very, very low. It's if you look at, and it's from the FBI's crime statistics, rifles are used in like 7% of all gun deaths or something like that, and of the AR-15s, it's like 0.02% of those rifles. It's a ridiculous low number, and that I'll have to look it up to be exact. But it's really, really low how much rifles are used. Any rifle is used.
But that's the platform that the media will spin to try to confiscate all guns. If you can get one, then you can get another one, then you can get another one, and it just keeps going like that. So, anyway,
maybe we're fear-mongering.
That's a political. We're like we gotta indoctrinate her now.
Well, you have the chance.
I think what it is that when you start getting into firearms and home defense or concealed carry and all that, you start and you get training properly, you start thinking about the what ifs a little bit more. And so with that kind of goes hand in hand of what if they ban this or whatever, and you kind of learn how anybody can use fear to manipulate people into doing whatever they want. So
yeah, unfortunately.
But that's enough of that. Let's go shoot. So we'll pause for now, and the audio will change because we'll be recording a little bit differently in the range. But you ready?
Let's go do it.
All righty.
Let's take that first shot.
So make sure that, like I said, your fingers off the trigger until you're ready to fire. Don't point at anything you don't want to destroy. Treat everything as if it's loaded. This one obviously is loaded. And know what your target is and what's beyond it. So we know that it's tires, where our target's the piece of paper, and the tires are what's beyond it. So you want to just keep your finger like this until you're ready to go. Even when you bring it up and you're ready to go, you keep it indexed right here until you're ready to fire.
Okay.
So I'm going to put this down. You pick it up, and I'll help you out with it as we go.
Okay.
Whenever you're ready.
All right.
Okay.
All right.
Yep, so you've got it.
Fingers
So
there.
just keep it there. Yep.
All right. Safety's off.
Yep, we'll flick that like that. So bring it up to your shoulder. I'll hold on to you until it's comfortable. Keep your finger off that trigger. Get your sights so you see the little post and you see the hole, the post in the hole.
Ready?
Okay, so when you're ready, just give it a shot. You can do it again if you want.
Am I getting anything?
I think so. Yeah.
That's it. So now you can check your chamber on the other side. Keep your finger off the trigger.
Fingers off.
So kind of take the gun and flip it the other way.
This way?
So yep, your chamber's empty.
Chamber's empty.
So you can set it down.
Let's just put the safety
Yep.
on.
There you go.
Cool.
There, you just shot an AR-15. What do you think?
It was easier than I thought it was going to be. The one thing I kept feeling like this was going to flip off my shoulder.
Well, it's a small stock, but
Yeah, that stock is a little different. So.
But
it
after
fun?
the first shot, it was fun.
cool.
It was easier than I thought it was going to be.
Awesome.
Not scary.
Just the first shot.
So,
No,
cool.
it's
All right,
great.
time to go to the suppress then.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
do it. All right, so
Did I hit the target?
Yeah, clear the weapon. Let's go down and look.
So now I noticed when I shoot, when I used to shoot, one of the problems was
We're
I
clear.
hooked my finger around the trigger.
Let's go look at the
and I
target.
pulled the gun.
see what we did.
So I tried to hit it here, but I noticed on my...
I mean, it's on paper.
It's normal to come up a little.
No, she did fine.
4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, I mean, there's 8. I mean, can't argue with that.
No, that was probably your first one.
Yeah,
Your eyes can only focus on one thing at a time.
there we go. Very cool. All right, so we are back from the range, and what'd you think?
It was great. It was powerful. The recoil wasn't what I thought it would be. I never felt like I was out of control. And the way you guys talked me through what to expect, when Mark was showing me how to shoot, you probably told me 4 or 5 times to keep my finger on the side of the gun. So I think that was pointed.
Off the trigger, yes,
Off
that's
the trigger.
important.
And then when I was missing the target in certain areas, when you explained to me what that was, it made sense. So it was a much easier experience than I thought it would be. It was fun.
Good.
That's good.
Well, and it's pretty cool how, just a little bit of that instruction of what how you can change your biomechanics, how much that actually helped get you back on track. So, but yeah, we shot 2 ARs, which you see the video at podcast or iishooting.com/podcast. That's where we'll put it, and I'll see if I can get some audio too. But yeah, what were you kind of going through your head before that first shot when I loaded it up and everything, and you grabbed it off the table? What were you kind of thinking?
A lot of things. It's like a golf swing. It's you go through everything in your head, and then you have to kind of go on autopilot and trying to remember everything that you said, and then aim, and hitting the target. And not knowing whether I was hitting it or not was interesting too.
And you see that, there's a lot of the negative side of the group that talks about how scary AR-15s are. You see, it doesn't make big holes. It doesn't just obliterate the target.
That surprised me. The holes were smaller than I thought they were going to be.
And it didn't dislocate your shoulder.
Not at all. It didn't hurt. Nothing.
And while it was sitting on the table, it didn't get up and attack us or anything.
How and going off that same vein, you've shot a pistol before. You've shot one of Mark's semi-auto, and in some people's opinion, evil pistols. How would this compare to that experience?
It was more comfortable because the gun would recoil into my shoulder. I felt that I had more control. Interestingly enough, as I mentioned before, when I was using the sight with the red dot, I didn't know how much I moved before a shot. And there was almost a pattern to it that I could see.
Yeah.
So that taught me a lot about aiming. I found the AR easier to shoot than a pistol.
Yeah, and so it's a lot less scary now, right? You can see how it's kind of nice to shoot, and why people would want to have one, and why they want to shoot one.
I think where people get in trouble is that when they want to shoot guns, they want to shoot the biggest, baddest one they can shoot. And you get over your skis on that, and then you get scared. But this had enough for me, and it was comfortable.
Yeah, and you could. I mean, would you shoot one again?
I would.
Would you ever own one?
Probably not. Probably not, because I would just go rent them, and I don't shoot enough to do it. And when I shoot, I like to try different guns. So I probably wouldn't own one, but I would definitely shoot them again.
Would you be opposed to somebody owning one?
Not at all. a responsible individual.
Right. Well, and
Who treats them the way you guys do.
One of the things that we've talked about a number of times on the podcast is how we, of all people, want to and need to make sure that people who aren't supposed to have guns don't get them. Mm-hmm. We talked briefly outside about how, you know, you both have refused gun sales to people who you think aren't, you know, who just set up some red flags, or even people who want to go use the range and there's some red flags there. You can outright refuse them because, you know, we want people to be good, responsible gun owners and a good representation of the shooting community. You know, so I think that's a misconception that people think, you know, if we're gun enthusiasts, oh yeah, everybody should have a gun no matter what. No. There's a lot of people who shouldn't.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we've talked about this before about the constitutional carry thing for the state is we're unanimous in saying that's awesome, but we don't think everybody should be able just to walk around with a gun on their hip, and because there's a lot of people that shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And some of the problem is, you know, on the anti-gun side is, well, anybody can buy a gun from another person, and that's true. They're, you know, peer-to-peer sales are not really regulated. But if you look, like, if you go to a gun show or any kind of place where there's an FFL holder, a federal firearms holder, that sells firearms, he has to go through that whole process of background checks and saying, yes, I will sell, or no, I won't sell to you. So they are controlled. Mm-hmm. There's some restrictions that we have. So yeah, people that shouldn't have them don't always get them, I hope.
Coming, and we'll rewind prior to Mark getting into firearms as much as he has. But what was the stereotype? What was your vision of a gun owner? And you own one firearm too.
I do.
But when did you buy that firearm?
I've owned this probably for 20, 25 years.
Okay, so it's been a while. Mm-hmm. What has been? So I guess I'll just let you answer though. What's the kind of your vision of the gun owner? It
runs the gamut. There's somebody like me who owned it for protection or recreational shooting. There are people in gangs who use them for protection or territorial reasons, mm-hmm. Retaliatory things. And then people out in states defending their property, hunters, recreational shooters. So it really runs the gamut. It's not like this is a bad person and they own a gun for bad reasons, though that's what you hear about mm-hmm. a lot.
Mm-hmm. Well, good. Thank you for coming out and shooting an AR with me.
And thank you for the instruction and the conversation, guys. It's been good.
One last thing. Is there anybody or anything that you think, you know, maybe somebody who's on the fence about an AR or doesn't know about an AR, you know, what would you recommend them do?
Exactly what we talked about today. I think everybody should shoot a gun and know what they do. ARs are not scary. Find an instructor, somebody that fits what you all described, and try it. Whether you do it a second time or not, at least know what they are and make an informed decision about what this gun is and what it can do.
I think that's no better way to end it.
Yeah.
So thank you for being on with us. Make sure you find us at iishooting.com/podcast. Email us what your thoughts, opinions, show ideas, feedback. Podcast at iishooting.com. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Google Podcasts. We're on Stitcher. Anywhere you can get your podcast from. Leave us some feedback there as well. But we will talk to you next time, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Range Minded. If you've got a comment, question, idea for the show, or any feedback, send us an email to podcast@iishooting.com or send us a message on our Facebook page. Just search Independence Indoor Shooting. Again, thanks for listening to Range Minded. We'll see you next time.